Hello! Welcome back to part 3 of this Hohner Verdi restoration. The next step is to wax the reeds into the reed block. Now this is a bit which can get messy and can be a bit tricky, and my advice as always is to practice on old kind of low cost or junk accordions or accordion parts and practice. So find some old reed blocks and just have a go at practicing the waxing process. Now there's different ways of waxing reeds in. I have got a wax spoon here which looks like this, and the idea behind this is that you can get the molten wax onto the bladed bit here, and then as you wax you can kind of then drip it along in between the reeds. I haven't really got on that well with this spoon, which is why it looks quite pristine. So I do a different technique. So I will be using a fine brush, and I'll talk you through that as I'm doing it, so to get the results that I need. Now the next thing though is the wax itself. Now you can buy accordion reed wax, and this is some accordion reed wax that you can buy. I bought this kind of tablet of wax. And it's not just beeswax, so you can buy beeswax. I've got some beeswax here, but it's not just beeswax. It's actually beeswax with rosin, but pine rosin mixed in with it, which just helps it to have the right consistency and performance, if you like, especially under different temperatures. And also you have to mix something. You can add other things to it. So what I do is I buy beeswax pellets like this, all kind of nicely ground up, and then I buy rosin, again kind of granulated if you like, and the other thing I put in it is a tablespoon of olive oil. So I do a mix of 60-40, 60% beeswax, 40% rosin. So I just weigh out 60 grams of the wax, weigh out 40 grams of the rosin, and then I pop it into this. So I've just got some wax heating up at the moment, just getting ready. I don't know if you can see that, but it's all in there heating up. So this is a wax heater really designed for people who wax their legs. Now I don't really think I'm going to be waxing my legs anytime soon, but it's a really good heater for heating up the wax until it's liquid and getting it to the right consistency, ready for waxing in the reeds. So 60-40 beeswax rosin, tablespoon of olive oil. So that gives me 100 grams kind of wax, if you like, which is quite a lot. And that will do quite a lot of waxing, so that's quite good. So I use that and it works perfectly well, so I'm quite happy with that. It's probably about a quarter of the price of buying the wax already made up, and I find it works perfectly well. Right, now moving on. So I've got the reed block, I've got two sets of reeds, so I've got the standard pitch and then the tremolo one, so making sure that I know which side I'm going to be waxing in each set of reeds. And I've also made sure that all the reeds are in pitch order down here, and as well as being in pitch order, I've made sure that the H on each reed is on the outside, because the stamped H goes on is the outermost part of the reed, so making sure I get the reeds in the right way around. So that's all set. So the next thing now is to prepare for waxing in the reed. So I'm just going to stop and get more bits and bobs ready to show you, and then I'll start the waxing in process. Okay, so now ready to go. So before I start waxing in the reeds, one thing I'm going to do is on the reed block, on this edge here, I'm going to put some electrical tape. And the reason I'm doing that is because when you start waxing in, that wax can run, and it can make a bit of a mess on the reed block. So if I just put some tape here, like so, what I'm doing is really just meaning that when I finish waxing, I'm going to take the tape off and I've got a nice clean top edge, which gives it a more professional finish. So just make sure that's nicely in place, like so. And then I'm going to get ready to start waxing. So I've got an old cloth just to remove any excess wax from the brush. And the brush I'm using is a nice quality fine brush that I've got from a model shop, like a kind of model making shop. If you buy cheap brushes like from, you know, pound stores and stuff, they're just not very nice quality and the bristles aren't very good. But I just get a nice quality modeller's brush. This is number 4, if that's any. 4 is a size, I think. You can see it better there. Yeah, and that's what I use, and it works really, really well. So I've got the wax nice and molten. So the wax is now like a liquid, kind of like golden syrupy kind of colour, and ready to go. And I'm going to make sure I've got the right side of the reed block. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a very thin coating of wax all the way around the first chamber. Going to put the first reed on, and then I'm going to go around with the brush and all the edges with another coating of wax, including the top. Now for the next reed that goes into the reed block, I'm going to obviously put it next to the first one. Now it's very difficult then to get into that gap and get the wax into that gap because there's a very thin gap. So what I would do is I'll just put a little extra layer of wax on that part of the reed block in between the 2 reeds. And as I put the next reed on, I'm going to squeeze it down into that wax, and that will push down through the wax, because it's all soft, to the wood, and it will give you that seal. And then I can just go around and continue with the waxing. Okay, and that's the way I get round the problem of trying to get in between the reeds, particularly when they're very close together. There's not enough room to get a brush, and I found using the waxing spoon just awfully messy. So this is the way I do it. So I just put a little extra layer of wax on the piece of wood between the reeds, and then when I put the reed on, I just push it in to that wax, and it just goes right down against the wood, and you get a nice seal of wax. So that's what I'm going to do. So the first thing then is I'm going to go around that reed block with a thin coating of wax. What I'll do, I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can see exactly what I'm doing, so just give me a second. Okay, there we are, we've got a nice view there. So start off, get a little bit of wax on my brush, and then I'm just going to put just a very fine coating around the first chamber, all around including the top. I'm going to get my first reed, make sure the H is on the top, get the reed set in exactly the right position, push it down firmly, and then I'm going to get my brush and I'm going to go round the side. So, I'm going to go around the bottom. And I'm going to go around this side. I'm just going to put a bit extra on this side, because I'm going to push the next reed down to that wax, and I'm going to just put a little bit more around the edges of the next chamber, like so. I'll get my second reed, I'm going to push it into place. These reeds are quite close together, so there we go, make sure it's in exactly the right place. There we go. And then I'm going to go around the bottom. I'm going to go around the top. Actually a bit more top of that one as well. Go over the top of that bit. Stop. And then I'm going to go around this side, and again just put a little bit more down this side, and then I'll just so I can push the reed in to there, like so. And then I'm going to put a little bit of wax around the edge of the next chamber, and then I'm going to push that reed in into position. Yeah, that's 3 in. Put my brush, little bit of wax going to go around the bottom. So, going to go around the top. And then I'm just going to go along the side as well, leaving a little bit extra for me to push that reed down into. There we go. And that should give me enough purchase for the next reed. There we are. Let's get the next one. And there we are. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just carry on the process all the way along. So I'll go to the end and I'll show you what it all looks like. Okay, all done. So I've now completed the waxing in of all the reeds, and I'm happy with the finish. So I'm thinking, yep, that's fine, all nice and neat. So I'm going to leave these now for 24 hours. I'm not going to do any tuning or testing or anything else. Just leave it for 24 hours, let that wax really kind of harden up, and before doing anything else to the reed block. But that reed block is now finished in terms of waxing in, and once I've left it for say 24 hours or so, then that'll be the time where I can pop it back into the accordion and have a listen to it, and then start to assess the tuning and what needs to be tuned, what reeds need to be tuned. So that's it. That's a little video on the waxing of reeds. Hope that's useful. And the next video is actually going to be about pallets. So the pallets on the treble side, some of them had tape on them for some reason. So I'm going to take all the pallets off and show how to reface the pallets, and I'll do that on the next one. Okay, so thanks for watching. Hope that was useful.